Hello and welcome back to the Tyler's Tech podcast after what feels like about 50 years, isn't it, mate?
It has
It's
been
like
quite a
we're
while.
old and grey now.
Grayer.
You've got long grey hair coming out of your beanie and everything. It's like we're up to episode 7, aren't we? Episode 7 after our chat with Yuri last time.
We are. It's just the two of us today as well.
It is just the two of us today.
How have you been?
I've been very good. I've been very busy as always, but very good. How have you been?
Yeah, define busy. What have you been doing?
Just everything, man. Just with like the second lockdown and stuff, we went back to doing emergencies only at work, and we have a very very loose definition of what emergencies only classes as.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah,
you've just been
it's
working.
been nuts. Yeah,
Fun. You've done anything interesting computer wise on your Linux stuff?
uh, I've been playing Phasmophobia
What is that?
on Steam. It's a game. It's a spoopy game for
All right.
for hunting spooky ghosts.
You've been getting scared, have you?
But voice No, not really. It does jump scare you every once in a while, but yeah, the voice recognition doesn't work on the next, but that's fine.
What is it, like a little platform game or what?
No, it's a Unity game.
Nice.
It's a 3D Unity game.
Interesting. So what did you want to talk
Yeah.
about today anyway?
Oh man, where do we even start? Well, seeing as I was just talking about gaming,
Mm-hmm.
why don't we talk a little bit about um, Linux gaming in general? Because I know we were talking about Monopoly when we were doing the sound check.
Yeah. Only the classics around here.
Only the classic Monopoly games, because we were saying that there isn't a Monopoly game available for Linux that we know about anyway.
Well, there's
Um,
alternatives.
yeah, except for the ones that are based on like KDE 3.5 or whatever it's called.
Still download the binaries though, and
Yeah, you can
attempt to
still
run it.
download the banners, put them in a virtual machine
There you go.
with Fedora 7 or whatever it was.
I think it was Fedora 7. Yeah, yeah.
Fedora 7 or 8, wasn't it? Or SUSE 10.3?
I know it was Ubuntu 7, wasn't it? And it was Fedora, whatever was around at that time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So
Uh,
apart from your plasmaphobia, what else have you been playing? Just that.
Phasmophobia.
Right. Okay.
What else have I been doing aside from that? Oh man, I'm on Ubuntu Groovy now,
Living the dream.
living the dream
Have you
with the
changed?
Bonzi Buddy
Have
wallpaper.
you kept the default wallpaper?
I have changed the default wallpaper. Yeah,
Yeah, you're a fan of the wallpaper, aren't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
the good old Bonzi Buddy with his Ray Buntu sunglasses on.
Oh, Ray Buntu, that's a good one.
Ray Buntu's a good one, man.
So gaming in particular, what did you really want to sort of touch on there?
So there were a couple of videos, or there was a spate of videos a couple of weeks ago. I think it started off with um,
Titus.
Chris Titus
Yeah.
Tech, um, basically going off on one as Chris Titus Tech likes to at times, about how TLDW Linux gaming is shit and it will never be as good as Windows. And I was like, okay. And actually, the first time I heard about this video was watching one of the response videos, which I think Gardner, the Linux gamer,
Yeah.
did. Um, and I think I watched his response before watching Chris's video
I think I
rather
watched
than the other
them.
way round.
Yeah, I watched them in that sequential order, so I followed it up right. What did you think of their takes then?
So I I kind of get where both of them are coming from in some ways, because I kind of get that Chris was basically saying, look, Windows is the number one platform at the minute PC market wise anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, all the stuff for like the graphics drivers and everything are all optimized for Windows. And like, yeah, I get that. It's a numbers game at the end of the day to some extent, isn't it?
Wasn't it? Remind me, wasn't it the conclusion of his video was that I'm just going to stick to Windows for gaming, right? Wasn't that the sort of conclusion?
Yeah,
Or
I think so. I think that was his general conclusion, but he was kind of, I don't know, I don't really know whether he was ignoring the games that we have that are really good and they're cross-platform,
yeah,
or what. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I kind of thought, okay, like, yeah, for the big AAA titles that like just come out, like, of course you're probably going to want to play them on Windows. Like, you know, it's a very, very slim chance, I think, with some of those games that they do magically work
well,
under Linux.
there's still a bit of sort of lock in with certain games that are on like the Windows App Store and things like that that you won't be
Oh,
playing on sort
totally.
of yeah.
Yeah,
Like if you wanted
and
to
it's
play
kind of
like
like,
Microsoft Simulator, the flight thing, you won't be playing that on Linux anytime soon anyway.
yeah,
I think they've tried
you
because
know,
I heard that the launcher was on Steam, but kind of what it does is it just sort of downloads a launcher and then doesn't actually. Yeah, I
ah,
haven't actually even
should I
checked.
look? Should I find out if it's on Proton DB?
I think the last time, yeah, it might be worth having a look. The last time I checked, people were managing to, I think, get the launcher going, but I think the
Hmm.
launcher is just a glorified sort of gateway into the actual downloading of the game from another source. And I think the whole game was
Yeah,
like 100 gig or something, if I remember.
yeah.
I don't think
Which
it's
one would it be?
it'll be the most recent one, whatever that is. But 20
Uh,
because they've got an old school version that I think is playable. I think.
yeah, the old school one is playable, but
Yeah.
then it's like it's so old that you know it's going to, isn't it?
I think.
Yeah, a lot of reports about graphical glitches and stuff like that
Oh,
on
so
it.
they've actually got it launching now, though.
Yeah,
Oh, that's pretty cool, though.
looks like it.
That's something, I suppose.
Yeah. But then, yeah, Gardner's video was essentially saying, well, actually, you know, there are some fantastic kind of indie games and stuff that get made that are compatible with Linux without any jiggery pokery. And certainly there are some indie games that are not Linux native but work fine with Proton without jiggery pokery.
Yeah,
But then he kind of derailed it all by spouting off about how, you know, multiplayer
and it
games
was at that
were.
point where he lost me, to be honest with you. So I was agreeing with most of what
Yeah,
he was saying, but then when he sort of entered the realm of multiplayer games, he completely lost me, like completely.
yeah, because certainly I get what he was saying about, you know, some online gaming communities being, you know, quote unquote toxic or whatever. But that is not a problem that is in and of itself related to Linux. That is a
Or
problem with
gaming.
gaming online in
I'd say,
general.
or even
Yeah,
just gaming, just communities as a whole. They're always going to be like a toxic faction of any sort of online
yeah,
community in any sort of form. It's unavoidable.
yeah, exactly. So I was kind of like, what does this have to do with Linux gaming particularly? Because let's take for example a game that I definitely know works. In fact, two games I know work on Linux very, very well.
Hmm.
We'll say Team Fortress 2, which is like,
Yeah.
you know, really old now, and I think that started working on Linux in like 2014 or something because they did a promotional
Well, it's the engine as well,
event.
though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did a promotional event, and you got a limited time in-game tux decoration for your characters or whatever. And I actually have it sitting
I
in my
completely missed that.
inventory.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was only for like 3 months or something that
What was
they
it, like
let
a
you pick
hat
it
or
up in
something?
game.
What was it?
No, it sits on your utility belt. It's an
Right.
accessory item.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Um, so that works pretty well. But that game is like old as now, right? Isn't it?
Hmm.
It came out a really long time
I think
ago,
there's still like an
realistically.
active player base though.
There is a big player base still.
Really big? You'd say
And
big?
I wouldn't say big compared to like say the other game like Dota 2 for example.
Yeah.
Like Dota 2 is massive.
I've never
You know,
played it.
it's crazy. You never played it. Did you ever
No.
play League of Legends though?
Oh, like I've had it. Yeah, I've attempted to. It's not really my kind of
Yeah.
game, though. To be honest.
No, well, Dota 2 is not really my kind of game either, but I know for a fact that it works natively on Linux, and I believe um, the Vulkan rendering when it first came out, you could enable it on Linux as well instead of whatever rendering it was using before. I can't remember. I think it might have been OpenGL.
Hmm.
Um, but let's say that is a native game and it works very very well under Linux.
Even games that aren't native
Admittedly,
are working quite well. There's, as you said, there's some that's not running at all, but then the ones that do,
yeah,
we're doing all right, I think. To be honest with you.
yeah, and obviously, like Proton has done an awful lot in terms of Linux gaming.
Hmm.
Like I can't stress that enough. I think that is overlooked a lot of times by the community in general. I think they go, "Oh, it's great. My game now works on Linux because of this thing," and then it drops there, and it's like, "Well, actually, Valve had to like sit down and be like, we're gonna make this thing that's gonna have loads of games run. We're gonna integrate it into Steam, and that's gonna be great for us." And now, actually, when I think about buying a new game, I will check to see whether it's A, available on Steam, and B, if it's available on Steam, does it work with Proton? If it's been out a fair while,
Well, it's easy to check as well. What's that website that sort of catalogues it?
it's
Proton DB. Yeah.
protondb.com, I think it is. And I would not do that at all before, because I would just take it for granted that it wouldn't work, and I'd have to go like back to my dual boot with Windows or whatever to
Yeah.
play the
So I
game.
think that has. So when I was going back, like, I'm an old man now these days, but going back a long time ago when I was first getting into
Oh,
Linux and
before
stuff.
before it was 50 years since we last did the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When I was, because I used to just, I was like addicted to like Counter Strike 1.6 and 1.5 and stuff, and
Yeah,
I kept a Windows just machine around to play that. But at that time, I don't know if it even was playable. I very much doubt it. But if it was, I'm sure I would have known about it, and that would have
hmm
happily kept me on the Linux sort of side of things. And I think Valve and just the overall gaming, everything, the whole, it is just a lot more easy now to recommend it to anyone who
yeah,
does like to play games, especially like, yeah, a lot of the new brand new AAA games won't work straight away. Well, they might do,
yeah,
but for the older sort of titles and some esportsy kind of titles, you're all right until you get into
yeah,
the whole sort of anti-cheat stuff, and then you're a bit
yeah.
sort of playing with
But
fire.
then, yeah, but that's because of the anti-cheat stuff.
Yeah,
That's not because of necessarily the game itself. Because it's like, was it the latest Doom
yeah, Doom Eternal.
that
Yeah,
that ran absolutely fine up until they updated the anti-cheat in it or something, and then it broke it.
yeah, it runs fine again now though. Obviously, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because I think they reversed the decision, didn't
yeah.
they? Because they said, oh, like it should only be for when you go into the online bits or something like that.
Oh, so does it still happen when
Um,
you're trying to play online on Linux then?
yeah, I don't know because I don't have the game. I'd have to go look it up. But I know it does work again now
Yeah, because
after some.
I was using it to benchmark the laptop the other day. I was just like chucked on.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, Doom Eternal. Yeah, it was working fine.
Um,
I haven't tried any sort of online features of it though, so I can't
yeah,
comment on that actually.
yeah. I can't remember. I know that I got Monster Hunter World a little while ago, um, and they updated that in October or some point, and it did actually break with Proton because it had updated the anti-cheat.
Right.
But there is a Proton flag that you could add that is like it stands for secure computation or something like that, and it allows the game to run again. But until they updated the anti-cheat, it ran fine anyway. So I was kind of like, oh, I ended up with a temporary ban off the servers for 24 hours because it saw me trying to log in, but it wouldn't load the anti-cheat. So
But it was only temporary.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it was just temporary ban because I'd been trying to start the game without anything running behind the scenes
So
for it.
circling back to the two videos that you feel sort of sparked this conversation, out of the
Hmm.
two, where do you think the right answer is, or do you think it lies somewhere in between?
Uh, Imagine that you've got Gardner's video on one side,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and you've got Chris's video on the other side, and there's a line drawn between them.
Yeah.
Then draw a triangle the other end of that line,
Right. Okay.
and you're kind of at the point of the triangle. I think that I'd probably lean myself more towards um, Gardner's view
Yeah.
to
Like
some
like I
extent.
said, he had me until the online stuff because that was where he lost
Yeah,
me. But for everything else, I think he was pretty much right.
yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see how stuff like Proton itself and indeed the new thing pressure vessel evolves
Mm-hmm.
over time, because I think pressure vessel is going to be the interesting part, because you know how we had all of that stuff when Ubuntu 2004 was coming out, and they were like, we're going to be dropping 32-bit binaries,
Yeah,
lol.
yeah. Well, it shows
And
you
then
how
everyone
much
was
sort of
like,
power Valve does have as well, though, in that kind of side of things, because they did reverse it, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They said that, I think the decision was that they would allow you to download the 32-bit
yeah.
boundaries, but they weren't going to get updated. That was the call that was made. It'll be interesting to see by, say, the next LTS whether Valve has got pressure vessel working to such a degree that they no longer need the 32-bit binaries on Ubuntu. If say Canonical drops the 32-bit parts from the repo entirely.
I think that is probably going to happen, though, isn't it? If you're looking sort of towards the
Hmm.
future, I can't see these 32-bit binaries just lasting like in perpetuity forever. Just
No, no, totally. Which is what makes me think the pressure vessel is going to be a little bit of the tipping point with, respect to that as well. Because then it's suddenly like, oh, like all of these games that all needed 32-bit binaries, it's great because the distributions don't have to provide them anymore.
hmm
They just get shipped with the game when it gets downloaded with, say, Proton or whatever. And then lo and behold, it just magically like works in its own little
So,
fun container of.
what do you think about people that are kind of anti just Valve and don't think it's good for sort of Linux as a whole? Because you mentioned something to me earlier, thinking that
Well,
people don't give it enough credit for what it has done for the actual
yeah, I mean,
landscape.
at the end of the day, Valve is a company
Yep.
that and it has been the dominant gaming store platform thing for a lot of years now, regardless of whether you're playing it on Linux or Windows or heck even Mac OS, if it's even capable of running games. Uh, and it's kind of like, Valve has an awful lot of weight behind it,
Well, yeah,
and I
definitely.
think I think Valve sees Linux as a marketing opportunity, a profit opportunity for return on investment.
Do you think?
Yeah, because why else would they put all of the resources into developing SteamOS when SteamOS first came out, developing
Yeah, but
Proton, developing Pressure Vessel?
they dropped that like a hot potato, though. The I can't remember the
Yeah, they
last
they,
time
they dropped
Steam was.
SteamOS, but
Yeah.
that was quite a while ago, and I think they overshot what they were intending SteamOS to do. I think if Proton and Pressure Vessel get sufficiently, you know, big enough, so to speak, I think if they relaunch SteamOS, they would see a lot more adoption than perhaps they originally did, because you wouldn't have all of the messing about
Well, I think
with under the hood.
the whole marketing was completely wrong with SteamOS as well. They was kind of branding it as like a
Yeah,
do-it-yourself console replacement. If you remember, they had these like slew of
yeah,
Steam boxes and everything, and I don't think that was the
yeah.
way they should have gone. To be honest with you.
No, certainly. I'd agree with you. When I looked at the time, I was like, oh, like this is a bit weird. But I
Yeah.
think
Trying
I
to
think
attract the PC gamer market by a do-it-yourself console kit didn't ever seem to sort of
no,
mesh up for me. That one.
no, and I think they kind of took a step ahead of where perhaps they should have been focusing. They should have done, if they kind of if they could go back in time and do it again, they should have done Proton and Pressure Vessel first,
Hmm.
and then say, okay, now we have loads of games that work under this, and we know what these flags are and everything for each game that you guys want to play. Here is SteamOS that's Linux based.
Have you ever run
Go
SteamOS?
go do. No, I have never run
Yeah,
SteamOS.
it's not very good.
Um, no, I know a friend that did have a Steam box, and eventually he had to convert it to just basically stock Ubuntu, but that launched Steam in big picture mode rather than.
Essentially, though, once you've done that, you've pretty much sort of captured what the whole vibe of the whole Steam box really was anyway.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
just seemed
But
like a pointless thing to me.
yeah, he was doing that because he said at least like if I do this, I can use the PC for other things as well. Whereas he found that trying to get it to do other things when it was just SteamOS and was it based on Debian to
Yeah, it's
start with, or
Debian.
was
It's
it?
still Debian, I think.
Yeah, yeah. When he was trying to get it to do all of the stuff that he wanted to, it was like, oh, like they've just stripped so much out of Debian that I like it's literally impossible to do anything but Steam, really.
Yeah, there was a desktop though,
Um,
wasn't there, if I remember rightfully?
Yeah, but he was like, it is honestly easier for me to just install Ubuntu on it and set
Oh,
up
yeah,
the startup
100%.
script so that it goes into big picture mode. Um,
You should have just tried Gamer OS or Super Gamer
yeah,
or
super
anything.
super gamer.
I guess we can move on to that actually. That would be a good little springboard. You mentioned sort of custom kernels that are being shipped with quote unquote gamer distributions, didn't you?
Yeah,
What did
yeah.
what did you want to sort of mention about that?
So you know what got me thinking about this the other day was when I was looking at Garuda Linux.
Mm-hmm. I'll be
And
interested in this
Garuda
part.
Linux
Go on.
kind of, yeah, it's very interesting because it does a number of things that I don't see some other distros doing. It doesn't, it has the ZSTD
Yep.
compression on
Compression. Yep.
Btrfs. It has
Zen.
ZRAM, which I don't see. Yeah, and it has the Zen kernel. And I was like, okay, what is the Zen kernel? What is this magical kernel that I've never heard of before?
Oh, you
And I've
hadn't
gone
have heard
onto
of
the
it?
GitHub. Yeah, I'd never heard of it before. I'd heard of Zanmod and I'd heard of Licorix,
Yeah.
and that was it. And
Okay.
so I go to the GitHub for the Zen kernel earlier, okay?
All right.
And all its description says for the repository is Zen patched kernel sources.
Informative.
So what does that translate into? And then the README is also not any more enlightening as well. So I'm kind of like, okay, that really doesn't help me. But that is a stock Linux kernel that's been taken from the repository on GitHub, and then it's been changed in some way to quote unquote make it more responsive.
Yeah. I've not actually seen any benchmarks of it compared to Zammod or Licorix. To be honest with you, I've
Yeah,
seen the sort of benchmarks between the two, but just I've never seen really anything done with
yeah,
Zen.
yeah. So then I go onto Licorix's website earlier as well when I was looking these up, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the top major feature of Licorix is Zen interactive tuning.
Okay.
So that kind of makes me think that Licorix is based on the Zen kernel.
No, really.
Well, that's the impression that I get. Maybe I'm reading too far into it, but I'm like, what is this thing going on? So their description of that is tunes the kernel for responsiveness at the cost of throughput and power usage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, which makes sense to me because basically they want less throughput for quicker response times, right?
Yep. 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 Yep.
And to do that, they use more power or something. So I'm like, okay. They have the MuQSS process scheduler, which is a fair process scheduler for gaming, multimedia, and real-time loads.
Mm-hmm.
How does it know?
Uh,
How does it know what a gaming workload is?
that is a good point. I wouldn't know how to answer that actually. How does it know what a gaming workload is?
Yeah. So if it's a fair process scheduler, it should be treating all processes fairly in some ways. So how does it know which processes are for gaming, multimedia, and real-time loads?
No, you got me
How
there.
does it do that? That's what I want to know. So if somebody knows, please write in the comments in like explain like I'm five language because because I think the MuQSS process scheduler is also used in XANMod.
Yep.
I think so. Please enlighten me because I don't understand how that is different to the stock one, which is completely fair queuing.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that. But so what are you basically? Is this a roundabout way of saying you don't think they're really doing too much, or they're not necessary, or what?
Well, maybe they are doing things, but the question is, if are the things that are being done
Mm-hmm.
actually worth it for most people when they're doing, say, a gaming workload?
It
Are
complete
most people actually going to notice a tangible difference to their gaming performance when they use one of these custom kernels?
purely on a gaming workload. The only ever sort of, and I wouldn't really call them tangible differences. I'd call them marginal differences. You might like, even when you see like a graph of just sort of spreadsheets of these different benchmarks for
Yeah,
these different kernels, it's always within like
5 FPS or
like
something.
1 percentage point, like the tiniest thing, and it's like, is it margin of error or is it? I don't know. I tend to
Yeah.
just stick with standard kernels unless I'm running something. When I'm on Debian, I don't mind switching out to a Liquorix kernel just because
Hmm.
it just makes my life a bit easier. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I tried Ubuntu with the low latency kernel
yep,
for a few days last week.
just straight Ubuntu.
Um, yeah.
Yep.
Just straight Ubuntu low latency kernel that comes with Ubuntu Studio,
Okay.
and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling the difference here, guys. Uh, I
With
was
the low
like,
latency one though, it depends what you are doing. So if you're doing anything where you would notice it, like I have noticed a bit of a difference of low latency when it comes to sort of finishing stuff up on a video or something, and I'm trying to sort of make
yeah,
sure
like
things are on point.
yeah, like audio
Yeah.
video processing, but like I explicitly tested it with um just playing Phasmophobia.
Mhm.
So may your mileage will vary depending on what games and specs and
Yep.
things
Yep.
that
Yep.
you have. But I was like, this doesn't feel any different. And
Yeah.
generally using the system, it didn't feel any
I
different.
think it definitely depends on the workload, at least for the low latency one. I will say that because I have noticed this. It's not a massive difference, but you do notice
Yeah,
it when you're sort of finishing things up in some sort of editing
yeah.
suite or
And
something.
I think did I post the system D analyze of the boot times in the server as well in the Discord server?
I don't know. Oh, did you do this? What was this recent then?
Yeah, it was fairly recent. I don't know if I posted in the
And did you
screen
take a
caps
system
or
deanalyze before you switched kernels and stuff?
yeah, I did system analyze plus a CPU and memory stress test.
In what channel was that in?
I cannot remember whether I posted it in your Discord server or a different one. So I'd
Right.
have to
Okay.
go away and double check. But in terms of the actual numbers that came out of the end of it, I think I saw like a very, very, very minor improvement using the low latency. And that was looking at the numbers. That wasn't in what I could feel on the system. That was just looking at performance numbers.
Yeah, but I think it's always going to be a case of you might see it in the numbers, but whether it will translate to sort of real world use is up in the air. To be honest, I don't.
Yeah, certainly.
So what led you to this sort of quandary? Like, why was you thinking about this?
About the kernels and
Yeah, was it
stuff.
purely Garuda Linux that made you think, oh, okay, what's going on
It
here?
was it was partly that and partly because some time ago I decided with my Threadripper server that I wanted to try and use SandMod on it, and I was looking to see whether there was a way that you could sign the kernel so that it works for secure boot. It
Right.
turns out that there probably is, but it's too big brain for me, and I'm very lazy, and I couldn't be bothered to do it for like almost no tangible performance
So
gain.
how long did you spend any significant time on Garuda Linux itself?
Oh no, I have not launched it
Right.
at all. I've
Okay.
got it sitting in my ISOs folder though, and I need to install VirtualBox and play around with it.
I don't think you'll
Um,
notice any sort of thing special with a virtual machine, to be honest.
no, no,
No.
I don't think I would either.
No.
But
Well, so what's your conclusion on that then? Like, just to wrap it up in one little neat little sentence.
it's nice that these kernels exist, but do they actually benefit people?
Again,
Question mark.
it really just depends on if you're looking at the
Yeah,
very fine sort of differences between them in terms of numbers. Again, real
yeah,
world wise, I don't think most people are really going to notice any difference, and they're
yeah,
probably better off just sticking with the standard kernel.
yeah.
But there we
Maybe
go.
I'm just being too pleb about it.
No, I see what you're saying. I think I was going to run some benchmarks of my own before this video, throughout the week with just different kernels and stuff, but I've just had stuff going on that I haven't been able to do it.
Yeah.
But I think I'll probably agree with you. I'm wondering if there's any sort of bad offenders distribution wise that are making specific claims like our games run better on here because we do this with this kernel. I don't know.
Oh, so like saying like our games run, yeah,
Yeah,
games on this distro run faster because we use this kernel.
yeah. I'm not. I don't know if I've seen that actually on different distributions.
I don't think so. Um,
Trying to sort of think
yeah,
back of all the distros that I've used, I don't think there's been any sort of audacious claims anyway from like distro makers. There might be from the sort of custom kernel guys themselves.
yeah. Let's see. Let's have a look. Da, 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 da.
And
Let's
what
see.
distributions even market themselves as out and out gaming distributions now as well?
Um, as like specifically
Yeah,
for
just for that use case.
gaming,
Yeah, like
I guess Regatta OS
Regatta.
springs to mind.
Yeah, Regatta, Draga, however you say it, Draga OS.
Yeah,
Salient,
I
although
guess.
it does also
Yeah,
emphasize media creation and stuff as well.
yeah.
Um,
Garuda doesn't itself market itself as.
well, it kind of did, and it kind of does and it doesn't. So when I first used it, when I done the
Mm,
LXQT video, I can't remember if it's on their website or on their forum or something. There was some literature somewhere saying it was, I'm paraphrasing, but very good for gaming. So
yeah.
I don't know.
And then yeah, I can't think of any other um distros that explicitly say, like
Uh,
there's that bit of a meme about branding for like computer components being quote unquote gaming.
well, there's about 100 or so just random little no name distributions that I'm pretty sure do. But
Yeah,
out of anything that's got any sort of traction underneath it, I don't think so.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
there's our personal favorite Super Gamer, of course.
I've,
How could we forget?
I've still never used it.
Uh,
I need to do like a distro video just for the meme of it and just like, yeah, this is Super Gamer,
yeah.
and get like 2 views.
Um, yeah. I mean, I guess would you class SteamOS as a gaming distribution? I don't know.
I don't even know if I'd claim like I wouldn't even call it a distribution at this point, to be honest with you.
No, it's defunct, isn't it? Pretty
Yeah,
much.
I don't really know. What was that? There was a bit of a fuss. Who done that article about the top 10 gaming distros, and then a load of people? Was it Tech Radar? Did you hear about this?
No.
Oh, there was an article, and it was the most trash article I think I've ever read, and it was like top
Oh.
10 Linux gaming distributions or something, and they had things on it that weren't even distributions. They were like quoting things like Play on Linux, whatever it's called, and just stuff that. And they even had SteamOS on it, and people were just like, SteamOS is not really doing anything.
Oh.
Have you found it?
Tech Radar has an article called "Best Linux Distro for Gaming in 2020."
That might be the one. Yeah, it got universally
Oh,
just like people were not impressed with
let's
this
have a
article.
look. Number 1, SteamOS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a terrible article.
Number 2, Play on Linux.
There we
Play
go.
on Linux is not a distro.
So it
Now
seems.
Laka is worth a shout though. Laka.tv is worth a
Yeah,
shout.
but it's not really it's not like mainstream games though, is it? Like a.
It emulates all of
Yeah.
the games,
So it's, yeah. Okay.
all of
Fair
the
play. Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You
So
should try it on your Raspberry Pis I sent
I
you.
should. So I guess there's been quite a lot of talk actually about gaming and stuff when you consider those 2 videos that you've mentioned, that really bad article. So I
Hmm.
think even sort of people that aren't just straight Linux sort of media, like the Tech Radar covers all sorts of stuff, doesn't it? So for that to
Yeah,
sort of come over to their sort of side of the computing fence, it's quite funny. So there is some sort of traction going, I think, at the moment in just gaming as a whole for Linux.
yeah.
Because you know, think X amount of years ago, you wouldn't be sort of laughing at a terribly written Tech Radar article about the best gaming distributions on Linux.
Nah, you'd just be laughing at a generic, badly written TechRadar article instead.
Exactly. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I can't believe you missed that actually.
No, I think I saw it at some point. Now that I've seen the headline of it, I saw it. I just didn't read it. Um, but yeah, it was a laugh. It was a laugh.
Yeah. Was there any other like gaming-y sort of news that's sort of been about lately?
Not that I know of. Not that's
Oh,
any
wasn't there some sort of? Oh, this was ages ago, wasn't it? The Microsoft acquisition of Bethesda or whatever. That was a long time ago.
Bethesda. Yeah,
Bethesda, yeah,
yeah. And everybody's like, "Lol, it's the end of the world" or whatever.
yeah, yeah. That's
And I
funny.
was like, "Well, okay, but."
So how are you liking Ubuntu 20.10 anyway? I always didn't peg you as someone who wouldn't use like a non-LTS release of a distro.
I think I kind of have decided because you know I like Tumbleweed,
Hmm.
OpenSUSE Tumbleweed because you get all the latest stuff and everything, and I kind of felt a little bit like if you want the latest stuff on Ubuntu without using snaps or other containerized apps, you kind of got to use the non LTS releases.
Yeah, you can
And I think
always.
if your hardware is kind of generic enough that it's going to be supported on pretty much any distribution, then the non LTS is probably fine unless there's like some horrible show stopping bug.
I don't know if the sort of pseudo rolling Rhino thing is still going for Ubuntu, where you just track like the Devil channel. I don't know if that's still going.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can
I
always give that
don't
a go.
think I'd do that. I
I
wouldn't do that.
I did it for a few days just to see what it was all about. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Actually, did you see the video I done on the Ubuntu Web remix?
I have seen it, and
Mm.
I have seen. Um, I was actually looking at some of your videos earlier to look at the
Honoured.
number of views on them,
Yeah,
and it's one of your most popular viewed videos in like the last like
yeah.
2 months.
Which is weird, isn't it? Because I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
be like horrible or anything. There's not much there at the moment.
Hmm.
So when I did the video, I was like, okay, let's just have a little run through of this one and see what's going on. Obviously, at the moment, I'd still say it's in its infancy of just development and overall idea. To be honest with you, I don't think they've fully fleshed out where to go with it. I think what they've done is they've looked at Chrome OS and they've taken what some people would say is good things about Chrome OS and they've tried to implement it into like a Linux distribution, obviously based on Ubuntu with the GNOME desktop. And
Mm.
there are strong points to it. And I bring this up to you because you use the ePhone thing, don't you?
Yeah, E Foundation.
Yeah, so it's integrated within with the sort of cloud services that you get with E as well. So, and I think you get like 5 gig free storage space or something like that.
All right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think there's interesting things that can be done with it. And I actually do
Hmm.
think, in a maybe if they was to stick on to it and sort of fully flesh out the idea, I think it could be
Yeah.
quite cool. However,
Yeah.
it's not going to suit a lot. It's kind of laptop I'd put on, kind of operating system I'd put on sort of
Yeah.
like a wine mum, someone who doesn't need. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that idea?
I mean, as soon as you said, okay, like it's Ubuntu Web Remix,
Hmm.
it's kind of like Chrome OS, and it gives you 5 GB of storage. Do you know what my instant thought was?
Go for it.
Ubuntu Netbook Remix
I loved it.
with the 5 GB of Ubuntu One storage
Hmm.
that you used to get.
The Netbook Remix was the first distribution I ever actually properly used, and then stuck with Linux
Hmm.
after that. So maybe I've got some weird sort of nostalgic place in my heart for
A
these kind.
thing for
Yeah,
the Netbook remixes, yeah,
but
yeah,
I'd like to see it succeed though.
yeah. How would you say, out of curiosity,
Hmm.
Ubuntu Web Remix compares to, say, Endless OS?
Oh, I'd say it's completely different. Doesn't Endless use OS tree and things like that?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
But it goes down the whole web app kind of route as well,
it
doesn't it?
does. It has a lot of those web applications sort of pre-installed, if I remember, sort of disguised as actual desktop applications. Whereas Ubuntu Web makes no sort of qualms about what it is. So I don't, that's what it's aiming to be. I don't think that's what Endless OS's sort of mission statement is. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? So I think they're sort of,
yeah,
I think they might borrow little bits and pieces from each other, but I think primarily they are just completely different sort of
yeah.
distributions.
Different targets. Yeah.
Um, if I was forced to use one or the other, I would use Ubuntu Web. Once it's sort of
Hmm.
been sort of fleshed out a bit more. However, I think
Hmm.
they need to do a bit more at the moment to make it not feel like an Ubuntu desktop with GNOME and a few things taken away, because that's what it does feel like at the moment.
Mm.
But I think if they can get to a point where it does feel like its own thing and like a genuine sort of open source alternative to Chrome OS, I think that's quite a cool idea.
Hmm.
And I quite
Yeah.
like the sort of integration. Well, I say integration, it's just Andbox, but it's not the Snap versions or anything like that. It's the Debs and the
Oh,
Snapd's.
okay.
Yeah, Snapd's not even installed on the system itself. And there was some
Hmm.
peculiar choices that were made, at least in the sort of ISO that I tried at that very moment. Like things like GNOME Online Accounts was stripped out, so it was installed, but it was just pretty much disabled from GNOME settings.
Huh.
And I would have thought for a cloud-based distribution, GNOME Online Accounts could be
You
pretty
would want,
useful.
yeah,
Um,
you would want that
well, yeah,
to sign
exactly.
in and stuff, wouldn't
Especially
you?
as you're using the like the cloud services and stuff. It's basically they're just desktop links that will open up into your web browser to like a Nextcloud instance, pretty much, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah, yeah.
it's a branded Nextcloud instance. Yeah.
Whereas which you can't actually add your own apps to as well, if I remember.
Yeah.
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 So I think if they was to integrate that into the desktop better, because what I had to do in the end was I was like, well, with Chrome OS, your cloud services are all integrated into the Files Manager. So if you want to open up your
Hmm.
Google Drive, you just open up the Files app on
Yeah.
Chrome OS. Whereas on Ubuntu Web, that wasn't the case. So I had to then go and copy the web dav and then add it to the davs and sort of do it all through Nautilus like that.
Yeah.
And again, for the people that I think this sort of distribution is targeting for, I don't think a lot of
That's
people
a
are going.
little bit too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? So I think the idea is a good idea. I just think it needs fleshing out a little bit more. But I think they know that as well. It's
Hmm.
very early days, so.
Hmm.
But I think it could be a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be something that I would use, because I need just a full on. If I had like a really old laptop, maybe. But again, it's still just Ubuntu with GNOME at the moment, with a few things taken away, which
Mm.
for an old laptop wouldn't be my first choice anyway. But there we go.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it develops over time.
I'd like to see it
And
do well. It's from the same dude who made Ubuntu Unity Remix, which I've said loads of good things about. So
oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's promising at
I
least. I
think
guess it
yeah, I
would be
definitely
interesting to see that and Fuchsia OS develop further as well.
the actual Fuchsia or the distribution that's
The distribution Fuchsia that we
d-
talked about before.
yeah, I'm in their Telegram group at the moment. I was speaking to them guys the other day. Actually, I think at some point I need to do a video about it as well.
Hmm.
I feel a bit bad that I've completely forgotten the name. Is it Dahlia?
Dahlia, yeah, yeah, yeah,
There
that
we
one.
go,
Yeah,
Dahlia
yeah,
OS. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you knew what I meant when I said
Yeah,
future. It
straight away.
wasn't
Yeah, I
future that
think
I meant. It
yeah,
was
I've been
yeah.
keeping an eye on that one. That one does sound quite interesting. I think they're working on some stuff for the Pine phone as well. The last time I sort of poked my head in the Telegram group,
Ooh,
which could be pretty cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But moving back to the Ubuntu Web, just very quickly, you bringing up the fact that in the past sort of however many weeks it's been up, it's sort of amassed more views than a lot of the other videos so far. It goes
Hmm.
to show that there is a definite market for that kind of operating system. I know the sample
Yeah.
size is quite small, just using my own channel to sort of project out into the wider world.
Yeah. Well, let's read the numbers, shall we? Because I've got them up in front of me.
Go
So
for it.
your Ferrin OS video
Hmm.
from 2 weeks ago has 8,916 views.
Yep.
Your Micro OS video from 3 weeks ago has 16,210.
That one got shared on, I think, what's that website? Hacker Day or something?
Yeah.
So I think that one was slightly bumped up, and I think it was shared in sort of the Open Suse sort of media channels as well, something. I think.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Your Ubuntu Web Remix
What
video
is it
from a
on?
week ago
Yeah.
is on 31,709 views.
Yeah. So there's definitely people looking out for something like that, and
Yeah,
I know algorithmically it's going to get picked up purely because it says
it's
alternative
got
to
Ubuntu in it.
and it says alternative to Chrome OS.
Yeah,
So that for the algorithm, that's probably doing quite well. But again, it's
yeah,
not. People are clicking on it because that's what they're wanting to see. They want to see an Ubuntu-based alternative to Chrome OS.
yeah.
So yeah, I do hope that they continue with it. I tried not to be super harsh in the video as well because I thought
Hmm.
it's quite early on, so there will be certain things that
Yeah, you don't want
know.
to be too harsh
No,
when it's
no,
early on.
I never want to be
No.
too harsh on anything either. It's like obviously I've got the Ubuntu Focus laptop at the moment, which I'm pretty much finishing up my review for, and
Hmm.
there's a couple of things that obviously I'm probably going to mention that I don't like, but for the most part I'm pretty happy with it. But we'll have to wait for the full
Yeah,
review for that one.
yeah. When's that going to be up by?
Well, I'm going to try and record it tomorrow. So I've got some new information sent to me a couple of days ago that I'm sort of working into the script.
Right.
And then I've recorded all the B-roll. I've got all the shots and stuff that I'm going to plaster over my face while I'm talking and all that nonsense.
Hmm.
And
So
then
you just need to read the script
yeah,
and
basically just need to sort of run
do
through the
some editing.
motions and then it's done. Yeah, do some editing. I
Hmm.
need to do a couple of benchmarks. So I've done the benchmarks off camera. I need to do them on camera and then just glue everything
Yeah.
together. So I'll start that process tomorrow and it'll be out in the next couple of days, I would have thought.
Mm.
And then I've got to send it back.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's again, without sort of giving away the entire review, I think some of my complaints from the first one have been addressed in part, at least anyway, for this new one. So it should be quite a cool one.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to do any videos with the Raspberry Pis that I sent you?
Yeah, yeah. Do you wanna let everyone know
Android?
what you've gone and sent me?
Um, bunch of stuff
Bunch of
in a
stuff.
box. So I had some Raspberry Pi 3Bs sitting around from when I tried to do my home server project, and an Odroid XU4 sitting around that I basically don't have any use for now because I've built a full PC as my server. So they were just kind of sitting there, and I'd originally intended to have a kind of like retro gaming Raspberry Pi type thing as well. So I sent Tyler two Raspberry Pi 3B pluses. Are they 3B plus or are they just 3B?
Hold
I can't
on.
remember.
Wait 1 second. Keep talking.
Oh, he's going. He's going away. But I sent him two Raspberry Pi 3Bs, an Odroid XU4, a retro SNES style controller, USB controller, a Logitech game controller,
Right,
and I believe, did I send you the book as well? Did you read the book?
what, the Nintendo one?
Yeah, did you like that book?
Yeah, I don't even want to open it though. It's sealed.
No, open it because I only got it from the works, mate. It was only like tenner,
Okay, okay.
so it doesn't. It's got no resale value.
Well, it says on the front of
Sorry.
it, this is going to be a collectible, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to have to keep this in, aren't I?
Yeah, but I thought you'd like it because I know that you know a lot more kind of retro games
Yeah,
than I do. So I thought it would
I
be
was
worth
super
sending
happy with
on
that
to
book. I
you.
didn't know that was even a thing that was in circulation, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Is it an
and
officially
I
licensed book, do you know, or is it?
oh I've got no idea, mate. I've got no idea. I just saw it on the shelf at the time that I was getting all of this stuff together, and I thought, I get that. It's only a tenner.
Pretty cool.
Let's have that because my idea was that I was going to go and find the games that it talked about and then put those onto the Raspberry Pis. But I ended up not doing it, so it's all good. It's fine.
So Raspberry Pis, we have a
I think they're
free
just 3B, aren't
freebie
they?
there. We've got a freebie there.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be the same for the other one.
So did you do anything with these while you had them, or you just sort of started a little project and then you?
I tried to make a Nextcloud server
Ah, okay.
with one of them, and I hit the problem
B.
of sending too much media across in one transaction, and it overloaded the memory buffers. And
Yeah,
it,
not
you know
surprised.
how
Yeah.
the Ethernet ports and the USB ports share the same bus.
Mm-hmm.
That was the problem I was having. So yeah, unfortunately, it didn't really work out, and that's why I had to build the full desktop instead.
And then we have the Odroid XU4 on that one as well.
Yeah, with the fan. The fan is optional,
It's optional.
apparently.
Did
Yeah,
you
it was an
So you attempted to move the files across,
yeah,
and
and
what
it
what
would
happened?
overload. It overloaded it basically.
Yeah.
overloaded RAM, overloaded the bus, and then like the whole Pi would just lock up.
Yeah, I've noticed that on
Um,
the Pi 400 as well. You do run into similar
mhm.
things here and there on that as well.
Yeah, the Odroid was actually a little bit better, but I think that's because I think it's got more RAM, and I don't think the Ethernet shares a bus with the USB.
I think it's the same RAM, isn't it?
Is it the same RAM?
I think so. I think they're all two gigas, aren't they?
I think the Odroid's more than that. I think it's like 4 at least.
Ah, I'll check that out later. Yeah, but so far I haven't actually even sort of used them yet. I've checked everything out and I've sort of put them in respective places. So we just pulled them out from under
Yeah.
the desk there.
All right. A
And
very
yeah,
useful place up under the desk.
exactly. And I'm trying to sort of think of something cool to do
Yeah.
with them on the channel. So if anyone's got any ideas actually that you'd like to sort of see done with it, let me know in the comments below.
I I would like you to
hmm
do a video on the Odroid's MMC card is already pre-flashed with Diet Pie.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like you to do a video on Diet Pie if you can because it's an interesting little
yeah, I can do
little
that.
distro.
I know I've never actually used Diet Pie, so that'd be quite cool. Yeah.
No, it has a lot of like pre-done scripts that come up in the menus and stuff for customizing, for installing packages, for setting them up, etc., etc.
Nice.
So it's definitely worth a shout out because the guy has put an awful lot of effort
Yeah,
into it.
yeah,
Bless
no, I'll
him.
do it. I'll do it. Definitely. So, is there any other things that have sort of caught your eye that you want to talk about today?
There was something about KDE, but I can't remember what it was.
Was it
What was the thing
was
about
it to do with
KDE that I
money?
saw?
No.
No, I don't
Okay.
think it was. Oh, I don't know.
When did you see it?
Oh, it was this thing I saw it on Reddit. It's about that they've done KDE like 4 domains. So there's like a KDE for like kids or whatever.
Yeah, this did pop up on my newsfeed actually. I didn't read anything about it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find it because I just saw it on Reddit about an hour ago. So,
Yeah, I
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
did see that actually.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, man.
No.
But
And
that'll be interesting. We could keep that for the next time
and
if.
what was the open Suse thing you sent me? Was that anything?
Oh, the OpenSUSE thing about the. Oh, they aren't they gonna sell SUSE onto IPO and basically make it a public company? Um,
Yeah, what do you think about that then? To wrap it up, let's touch on that briefly.
I mean, the current company or conglomerate that owns them is basically venture capitalists.
Yeah,
That's what they're there to do. And if they think that the best way that they can make money out of SUSE is to do an IPO, then okay, like it's whatever really. I don't think it'll immediately affect OpenSUSE
right.
particularly. If anything, it could be a good thing for OpenSUSE because it would, get the distro some more publicity.
Didn't someone not super long ago do a video about OpenSUSE and what it needs to do or something?
Oh God,
Yeah,
yeah.
you remember that one?
We do not speak his name, but yeah.
What did you want to say anything about that video in particular? I do actually.
Oh, mate, if I start saying things about that video, I will not stop for about half an hour. You know I won't.
I think the biggest sin for me in that video was just the utter hate towards Tumbleweed. I didn't understand it.
Yeah,
It's my
yeah.
favourite part of OpenSUSE, to be honest.
Yeah, it's my favorite part of OpenSUSE as well. The fact that you get essentially a rolling release distribution with some really quite, good quality assurance testing that's all automated and gets picked up and stuff is pretty fantastic. It's one of the project's strengths, I think,
Oh,
is the
yeah.
fact that it is capable of doing this. But there's always the people that, for whatever reason, don't like it.
Yeah, but I don't particularly like try and put out a distribution I don't want to upset. Hang on. No, we won't go there. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see any sort of projects just change drastically from what they're known as anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of things in that video that I was like, yeah, this doesn't make a lot of sense, and this is coming from a guy that, by his own admission, worked in the marketing department at SUSE.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I remember
Yeah,
I sort of briefly poked my nose in the OpenSUSE's Discord when that was a thing, and it was a fun read.
that was a fun time.
It
Yeah.
was brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Oh, you wanted to talk about wallpapers, didn't you?
Yeah, actually. So, and I'm gonna use your bonsai wallpaper
Oh,
to
the Bonzi buddy.
what's it? Your Groovy Gorilla wallpaper.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I got a comment. I think it was an old comment, but I replied to it recently because I just got a notification for it.
yeah.
And the comment was sort of simply like paraphrasing: Why do people who review distros or talk about Linux talk about default wallpapers?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think that's a reasonable question?
That well, it's a reasonable question, but it's got a relatively straightforward answer.
Yeah.
When you load a distribution and you get to the desktop environment, what is the first thing you see?
Yeah, exactly.
You see the wallpaper. Now, if I were to load up a distribution and see like an overly stretched version of, say, your face, for example,
I mean, that'd be a
as the
brilliant
default
wallpaper.
wallpaper, it would be brilliant. It would be the best distribution I've ever used.
Beanie in
But
tow.
no, but no, seriously, if there's a distribute, like, yeah, okay, everybody's got their personal taste. Not everybody likes the backgrounds, and it's relatively arbitrary
Yeah.
to change the backgrounds in this day and age. But if you load a distribution and your first impression is some horrendous, like, avocado green bathroom suite style tiled wallpaper kind of thing, or even if it's just sort of like, just a sheet of, like, color,
Yeah.
or even if there's like, sometimes no wallpaper set, you're gonna think, oh, they haven't even like bothered to put the effort in to have that initial experience of you load up and this is what you're given.
Yeah, so for me, like I always try and term things, because obviously we've all used Linux for a fairly reasonable amount of time.
Hmm.
We know how easy things are to change, etc. But there'll be people
Yeah,
that, I mean, it's how a lot of people just find out things as well. They'll just be on the internet just randomly searching things, and they go, "Oh, what's that operating system? That sounds interesting," and they might download an ISO
hmm,
of like a distribution with very poor wallpapers, branding, theming out of the box,
yeah,
and then it's going to set the tone for the overall desktop and even just Linux in general. Because not a lot of people know that there's a million distributions out there with all their own sort of ideas and way of implementing things, and it is just going to set the
yeah,
tone from they're going to go, this is ugly, this is not nice looking. So it's a very superficial thing to focus on. So I'd never spend like anything longer than a minute on a video talking
hmm,
about a wallpaper. But the distributions that do really care about the artwork and just the overall look
yeah,
and finish of things, I think they're doing the right thing. So when you think about Apple, for example, right?
yeah,
When Big Sur was coming out and everyone was talking about the they've copied the Linux sort of look and feel and stuff, they still had, and now
hmm,
I actually really like the Big Sur wallpaper. I think it's actually quite nice, right? They still sort of meticulously thought about the wallpaper, and people were saying, oh, it does look nice, that wallpaper, and it even got to the sort of it's in the inbuilt global theming for KDE now. You can download the Big Sur wallpaper and have it as part of
yeah,
a theme. So for
yeah,
some, like, you want to sort of look at these sort of things that these other bigger companies are doing, not Windows so much because their wallpapers are disgusting, but
yeah.
branding and just the overall first initial look of something is very important, I think, anyway.
Because it's your first impression of a business.
Yep.
It's your first impression of a new product or something.
And two
Uh,
distributions to me that do really well on just this front and the design and the artwork and it is Ferren, the one that I'd done a video of not too long ago. They
yeah,
really do care about the wallpapers and just the
yeah,
overall look and feel of things, and it all ties together. And the other one
yeah,
is Nitrux. Actually, the artwork for Nitrux distros are amazing, and I think that
yeah,
somehow goes probably because Yuri himself has got a bit of a sort of history in graphic design and stuff like that, and it shows when you're using the desktop. It's pretty.
yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I think it's the same for Elementary OS as well.
Yep.
Obviously, that's graphic designers, or Cassidy was originally a graphics designer when they started Elementary.
Yeah. And it makes a
Um,
difference. It does.
yeah, and I think, as I said to you before, it boils down to the user's impression and difference in what is the user interface and what is the user experience.
Mm-hmm.
Experience is the thing that matters. The interface, yeah, people might not like it, and that's fine. That's okay, but they can find something else. But it's the user experience that's the thing that matters. And you're right to point out that Apple has always been very aware of
Yeah.
this. They had their human interface guidelines for how macOS should interface with people and how apps that run on macOS should interface with the user.
And so to a certain degree, Ubuntu's okay at it. I think you probably like the color scheming a bit more than me, from what I can tell. But again, they
Yeah,
do try
I
and make things match together along with just everything else. And what is the color scheme these days? It's a lot of oranges and purples, isn't it?
Ubuntu in general.
Yeah.
Uh, Purple, orange, black and white, and then I think like you can blend sort of shades of brown and things in there as well potentially, but it's mostly purple, orange,
But
black
what I
and
like
white.
about the way Ubuntu does things as well, so whenever a new release is coming out, they'll sort of tease things on on their social medias like Twitter and stuff, and it's like a big thing, like what's the new wallpaper going to be, and then all of the other
Yeah.
flavors will do their own little spins on it, and they like they let people just download the sort of the plain sort of graphic design,
Oh,
and
graphic one. Yeah.
yeah, and I think they do it right. I think I might not like the most recent wallpaper of theirs. But they do,
Swansea.
yeah. I'm not a fan of him, to be honest with you. I'm sure. I'm
Well,
sure.
you know what got me about that wallpaper was that it was it. I think people were like, "Oh, it's late" or something, because was it the beta or the release candidate came out and it still didn't have an updated wallpaper, and everybody was like,
That's quite common
"Where's
though. That's quite common
the
with a. I've noticed that in other times. Yeah, wallpapers. I think by the beta it should usually be there, like the first sort of proper public beta that people were using.
yeah?"
It wasn't this release, if I remember rightfully. I don't think so.
I don't think it was it? No, it was still
No,
using.
but
But I know my friend who I got to switch to Linux on one of her old laptops just to play around with it and everything. She loaded up Ubuntu,
mhm.
and I said to her, like, what is your like general impression from the get go, like with the stock, the dock on the left side, the stock wallpaper, the theming, and everything? And she's like, I really like it. She's like, I like, you know, the colors are different. I like that it kind of like blends together, um, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, this is a new user
Yeah,
to Linux in general, and she now has a positive feeling for a distro, regardless of the fact that it's Ubuntu or whatever. Now has her first experience with Linux in general is positive because of the user experience.
and now flip that and say that the first distro she tried was something that wasn't in the same ballpark. She would
Yeah,
come away like tainting the whole of
she'd be up
Linux.
to me in 5 minutes and saying, how do I delete this? How do
Yeah,
I get Windows
exactly.
back?
So the initial impressions are a lot more important than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, was there any questions in the Discord? I don't think there was there?
Not specific, I don't think. Let's have a look.
Let's have a
Let's
quick
pull a
look.
let's pull a thing out of the hat. Now we mentioned about the possible Suse IPO that may or may not be happening.
Hmm.
Um, that was pretty much it. There was something about creating a Linux ecosystem, but I think that's a discussion for another day.
I think it refers to a video as well that I haven't actually seen, so I don't know what the
Yeah,
context of it is. No.
yeah, same. But it's a discussion for another day, certainly.
Nice. I think we can officially wrap it up there.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So this has been episode 7 of the Stylistic podcast. I hope you've enjoyed listening. Please join us in the Discord server if you want to. Link will be in the description.
It's getting
And
pretty good at this, isn't he, old Zero? Carry on.
yeah, I'm getting the script going. It's one of my many skills. But we will see you hopefully in not 50 years
No,
for the next.
yeah, I'll touch on that quickly. The podcast will be regular. It's just been a bit of a nightmare. I've had so many stuff going on.
We've both had so much stuff going
Yeah,
on.
but we will. I think time wise, if it's not weekly, it will at least be fortnightly. I think we can definitely say that.
Yeah, fortnightly, monthly, something
Something like
something
that.
like that.
But not 10 years, no.
No, not 10 years.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.
See you later.